Hi, my name is Amelia, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be starting a new series which I'm pretty excited about and also a little bit apprehensive because it's something that I've never really done before. But basically the concept is I pick a random book from my shelf and then I challenge myself to talk about it for however many minutes. So, without much further ado, the book that I will be discussing this week is Circe by Madeline Miller. I've now officially set myself a 10-minute timer to talk about it, so without much further ado, let's get into the video. Okay, so I know that my opinions on Circe are pretty different from the general populace. I only rated this 2 stars, and that second star was mostly for one specific section of the book, while its average rating I think is something like 4.8, which is obviously really high. My reasons for disliking the book are mostly to do with its marketing. I felt like it just wasn't what it said it was going to be. Personally, I was very disappointed. As a mythological retelling, it's not even that good, and I can say this with quite a decent level of confidence because I am a classical civilization student at the moment, and so I do have like a reasonably in-depth knowledge of the Odyssey. However, I don't know so much about Circe's beginning, so I have no idea whether the start of the book is accurate or not. However, the section with regards to the Odyssey is accurate, but I don't necessarily think that the problems with the book can be excused because it's a mythological retelling. Personally, that's something that I just don't think is a good way to explain away what's happening, and I am going to get into some of those issues in a second. But yeah, all of the people saying that everything that's wrong with this is fine because it's a mythological retelling, I don't want to call rank and be like, well, I've read the Odyssey and it's... But like, I kind of want to say, like, you can't generally just excuse stuff as mythological retellings. If you want a good Odyssey retelling, read the Penelopiad. It takes the source material and modifies it to be feminist in a way that I think works really well, even if sometimes it does read like a GCSE drama play. The main issue that I actually had with this was the feminism angle. It didn't read as very feminist to me. I personally don't believe you can call a book feminist if 90% of it is woman-hating. Circe, for the majority of the start of the book, is the only good character. Everyone else is against her. She's the only nice person in the world, and she's the only person who doesn't care about power and looks and beauty and things like that, and it just feels very not like other girls, in my opinion, and I couldn't really get into it. I also felt like the ending, which is slightly more feminist, is not as feminist as it could be, and to have it marketed as a feminist book or a feminist retelling just feels grossly inaccurate. The story focuses more on Circe's relationships with men than it does on her relationship with her sister or her relationship with Penelope. And another thing that I really actually wanted to bring up is her relationship with her sister, Pasiphae. I want to say it's pronounced like that. Obviously, I haven't studied Circe's origins, I don't know exactly. But her relationship with her sister, there's something really interesting brought up during that scene, which Miller never actually goes on to explore anymore. It's like, they're only an implication, which I thought was a really lost opportunity. If there had been some bonding between Circe and her sister, maybe even secret bonding to get around that mythological exile aspect, that would have been really interesting and I would have loved reading about that, and that probably would have raised my rating. Because the main issue that I have with this book is not the writing style. The writing style is great. I also don't think that it's boring. A lot of people complain that it's just really dull. I don't think that. I think my main problem is with the agenda of the story. And I think that if those very, like, minor, I want to say minor, but not really, changes had been made to more capitalize on the relationships between the female characters, then it could have been a really good book, and I probably would have rated it 5 stars. The next things that I want to talk about are actually pretty spoilery, so if you haven't read Circe, don't watch like the rest of this video, just skip to the end. But I really didn't like the ending relationship between Circe and Telemachus. It felt weird. I could not get over the aspect of Telemachus being Circe's kind of stepson. It was just creepy, and while I understood where it was coming from, sort of, I also felt like it would have been really creative and interesting if Circe had maybe fallen in love with Penelope, and you could have even got those similar vibes and aspects to the story without having to have that added creepiness coming from, like, that's her lover's son that she's hanging out with. And it's also probably really weird for Telegonus to have his half-brother and stepfather be the same person, and I know that Greek mythology is like that, but it still felt like, since it's something that in the stories, what I know of the Odyssey afterwards, in most versions Telemachus marries Nausicaa, so having him marry Circe was definitely an interesting choice. I didn't appreciate it. I thought it was not really as well developed as it could have been. I didn't think Telemachus's character was very good, actually. I didn't like his character. I preferred the way his character was treated in the Penelopiad. I'm going to bring up the Penelopiad a lot in this video. And I just felt like it was kind of cheap as an ending. It would have been a lot more interesting and subversive if she had ended up with Penelope, and not to mention a lot more feminist. And I think Read with Cindy mentioned this in her video where she discussed Circe. The relationships with the other nymphs, naiads, what are they called? You know what I mean. The relationships with the other nymphs on the island are never explored. We get this implication that they become friendly to Circe and then nothing else. We get, like, it just feels like it focuses so much more on her relationships with the men in her life than the women that I just can't reason why this is called feminist or why it's marketed as such. I know not every story has to be a story of empowerment and breaking through oppression and becoming the woman you were meant to be and whatever. Like, I know that not every story has to fulfill those conditions, but for a story that's marketed as filling those conditions, it doesn't live up to it, and I think that's my main issue. Now, with all that being said, I do want to talk about some positives. I really love the writing style. Madeline Miller is an amazing writer. She writes beautifully, her prose is gorgeous. I also want to bring up that the sections with Telegonus as a child are absolutely adorable. I love that entire segment, and if it had just continued on by that much, it would probably have ended up being a 4-star story, just because I really enjoyed that. I felt like that was really well written. It really added to the story. It really added to Circe's character. It really just made everything feel so much more nice. And, like, I don't know, nice is not the word, but you know what I mean. It's like, it made things just better. It improved the story as a whole. And another thing that I really appreciated was Penelope becoming a witch at the end. That was really interesting. I loved that decision. I think that was one of the best decisions made in terms of the story. Like, I adored it. I thought that that choice was wonderful, and I would love to read about Penelope's adventures as a witch on the island of Aia. I'm a costume student. Yeah. I really appreciated that. I thought that was great, and I think that that could be modified in to make another sequel if Madeline Miller feels like it. I'd definitely read it. Oh. So that means that I have to end my ramblings on this book. Again, I want to say, obviously everything mentioned here is just my own opinion. Yeah, like, my opinions on Circe are very, very mixed. I didn't like it as much as everyone else did, but I do recognise its merit. I think there is a difference between a story where you can't see why everyone liked it as much as they did, and a story where you can, but it just didn't do that personally for you. And I feel like Circe is one of the latter, and for me there are some other stories which are the former, which I'm probably not going to talk about at any point just because I don't think I want to start any fights with anyone. But yeah, that is it for this book rambles. If you like these videos, please let me know down below. You can also subscribe and check the bell icon to get notifications. And yeah, thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye!